horse drifted alarmingly in the betting was, fancied in the morning, continued to drift. It was late on the exchanges to lose. It was something you'd see in a Dick Francis novel, Charles Buttons.
The ground is soft. It's not.
It's heavy.
It's soft on times.
It's heavy.
Okay.
A big warm welcome to the Barsteward's Inquiry Sunday Sermon, where myself, John and Chris get down and dirty and talk absolute bollocks probably to most of you. A few expletives maybe along the way, but this is a good show, chaps, because we've got absolutely boodles to talk about here. So first of all, how are you two? Welcome.
Welcome, thank you. Yes, we're here, aren't we? That's just about it, I think.
Chris, did you see that article in the Daily Star?
I don't tend to take the Daily Star, so I have to say I didn't.
Right,
no.
It said drunken hornets on the rampage in the south of England.
Yes. Look, there's drunken hornets. There's South Asian mutant mosquitoes. So there's a fairly extensive lineup of suspects, isn't there? I'm less certain now. It could be any number of aphids that.
You'll all be wearing cricket boxes down there, aren't you?
I think so. Well, we do anyway. We're all like big down here, John. So who knows, huh? Who knows?
No, interesting. And John, of course, your very self this weekend. You've enjoyed the action yesterday. I noticed in your notes on Patreon there was one or two quite cool notes for our non-Patreon. Right, I don't know if you've got them to hand. Can you give our non-Patreon a taste of one on Saturday?
Yeah, I'll give a couple of examples from Chesterley. Mm-hmm. Princess Nyla, she's won this, but she's a proper cunt. Hannigan was on one rail all the way up the straight to stop her hanging, and OG Beachwear is nigh on useless. Had the red carpet out for this one, letting Franny dictate, and she still fucked it up.
There we go, for Carlton Palmer, who hasn't been Palmered these days. What is it, John, about Hugo Palmer having to train winners at Chester now every other week throughout the summer?
It's such a shame for him, isn't it, really? He probably hates the place. Crawling with shavs.
Yeah, he doesn't strike me as the sort of salaried man, does he? It must be a big old salary.
He'll be sending somebody else to saddle, won't he? He won't want to go there and risk brushing up against a chav.
Yeah. He'll probably get fake tan on him if he does. Right. Right.
Or coke.
Yeah, probably fail a drugs test, having not even taken anything. Well, some horse race traders actually use that as an excuse, don't they? Saying, blame it on the stable staff when an horse.
Evening, John and Rachel.
Yeah.
How are we tonight?
Chris, about your article that you've done today, which is, of course, free to read on Patreon, another plug there, on benevolent dictators. Yes. Which I thought led nicely into this first piece regarding the Irish Horse Racing Board, the IHRB. I'm going to try and explain this for our level of listeners. This isn't Nick Luck, is it? I mean, we've got some right.
Thickos.
Yeah. Including us, to be fair. So
quite, yes.
We're not in the well-to-do club. Apparently, so the 2021 accounts were very overdue. They were due in 2022, and they didn't get released till 2023. And apart from the fact that they were apparently internally appointed auditors, which were basically their own auditors doing them, Dennis Egan's, who was chair of the Irish Turf Club 2001 to 2017, he was the IHRB at a departure in 2021. He had an exit payment of €384,000, and that was 58% higher than what is considered as normally acceptable. So people might say, well, so what? He's got 58% more, whatever. But anyway, this should have been declared to the government. They had a deal with the government 2018 to 2020 that there were no declarations on payments to staff members. Yeah. But in 2021 that expired. They had to be declared. So there was absolutely nothing doing from the IHRB to the government. The government hadn't a clue what was getting paid out. But obviously these accounts reveal that Dennis Egan's received €384,000 on his exit. Now, Darragh O'Loughlin, the current chair, basically, he looks like a rabbit in headlights at the moment. He's the sort of regulatory man, and he looks under a lot of pressure because he's had to come out on this inquiry that Dernlow Shea, the chief financial officer for the Irish Horse Racing Board, he is on voluntary leave on financial transactions that have taken place to do with governance, right? But he wouldn't confirm when pressed in the inquiry whether it was ordered or voluntary, and he described it as a potential bombshell. So I think we know it's not voluntary. So he's lied there. And talking about him lying, obviously they've not complied with the Irish government on declarations of payments to staff members. And on the 10th of March, he appeared on the Nick Look podcast, and he basically lied on the Nick Look podcast. So if you want to listen to that, folks, Lydia Hislop does a particularly good roundup, courtesy of Mini 1602 on Twitter, that's done all the digging on this, on what caused the delay, etc., etc. And that really is worth listening to. They can explain it better than us. But in a nutshell, chaps, this is why I felt it was relevant to your article, because this to me looks like a typical Tory government.
Yeah,
doesn't it? I mean,
jobs for the boys, isn't it? Yeah, jobs for the boys, isn't it? That's what it is. That's what it smacks of, anyway.
Well, the DUP propped the Tories up, didn't it? So no surprise there.
But I mean, the problem is here that unlike the UK, this is why it's a big scandal. Obviously, in Ireland, like if this was the BHA, probably no one would bat an eyelid. But this is Irish taxpayers' money. Just don't forget, the Irish sport is funded by the purse, by the Treasury. So this is real bad stuff. Dernlow Shea, he's obviously on leave, and apparently this could be really bad in terms of like, you know, money that's being mishandled. And how many times do we see this, Chris, John, in top level establishments these days? Lots of incompetence, but also financial corruption.
It's hugely tempting, isn't it? You know, people are people, aren't they? These human beings. And whilst you'd hope that those at the apex of the sport governance and leadership would be like Caesar's wife beyond reproach, it must be fucking tempting if you haven't got that degree of scrutiny, which those who watch the watchers are sort of asleep. You know, it only takes one little hand in the jar, and then it becomes a habit, doesn't it? So you see it quite a lot in lots of other companies as well. So it's not surprising, but listen, it's disappointing and slightly inevitable, actually.
And of course, John, this precedes. Remember the cover-up on the fuck-up, if you like, on the drug testing? Apparently, there was the Kildare raids. What's happened with that? You know,
the thing is as well. In amongst the Irish government, I think you're far more likely to get some proper racing fans. There'll be some of these fuckers who'll stand up and they won't be taking no for an answer on some very, very pertinent questions. I think there'll be a very strong feeling that somebody or several bodies need to go down the steps to the clink over this. Well,
this is it. The good thing with the Irish being funded by the government is they have to answer to public inquiries. The BHA.
I keep saying that the BHA should be subject to a public inquiry. I'd love the BHA to be in the same position as the Irish Board.
This again sort of brings me on to the next topic, which is the old affordability, the white paper stuff, and I come back to Joe Suarez Smith, the BHA, the head of the BHA. That
the teeth.
Yeah, right. So yeah, the teeth. Yeah. So how is this acceptable, Chris, when you have a chair that has a heavy interest in online casino and slot companies, financial interest?
Yeah.
He's the chair of the BHA, and coincidentally, then, why have we not seen racing trying to distance itself from slot machines at any point? And this has been obtained by Mind Modeler on Twitter, Ed, he's actually gone through the minutes of board meetings. God, you've got to be thorough to do that for the BHA, and he's not seen any mention ever from the BHA to distance horse racing from slots.
I mean, look, the answer is we don't know. But I think the point we made on a previous pod was it's a question that should be asked. Now, that there may very well be, and I can't think of it, may very well be a perfectly innocent and plausible explanation to explain what is an apparent conflict of interest. But the disappointing feature is, and I include all journalists, all racing journalists, even the ones we like, no one seems to have answered that question or asked that question. And I just wonder why. Now, he might come back and say, well, it's because of X, Y, Z, and it's perfectly acceptable, blah, blah, blah. But if this character was a politician, can you imagine the amount of press scrutiny that kind of apparent conflict of interest would provoke? And I'm just astonished, but not surprised, perversely, that no one seems bothered or to even answer the question. And it makes you wonder, what are the press doing? What is their role other than to write stupid fucking articles in the Racing Post and get horses at prices you can't get on? There are no journalists. No matter what Lydia says, and there's some good people, I cannot see any evidence of proper journalists. These are PR merchants, aren't they, in the main?
Yeah, I mean, I've even come under fire from some Barsters listeners for sticking up for Lydia. But I know what you're saying, Chris. But Lydia, in my view, does the most because every time
she does the most. Yes, she does. Yeah,
because she gets the most crossfire from trainers a la Nicky Henderson. She dares sometimes to challenge the unchallengeable.
But not very often. I mean, there's a couple of isolated examples, and I think
She did it often though, Chris. She'd be fucking ostracising this year.
She'd be like us.
I guess so. That's a fair point. But she is preeminent. That's right. But this is an opportunity for somebody just to ask the question. You don't have to come with a welter of evidence, and you're not accusing anyone of anything. You just say, this is.
I wish somebody would accuse somebody or something, to be honest, because to my mind, the whole kit and caboodle is just utterly corrupt.
Yeah, it is.
It does. The optics are terrible, aren't they? And all it needs is just ask the question. That's it. And let them either answer it or dig themselves a deeper hole. But nobody seems bothered, do they? And you're right, Lee. No one seems to care, really, do they?
No, it's all about the mortgage payments and the gas bill payments. Because, as I've said before, if you're getting a nice salary from a firm that is funded by a bookmaker or whatever, then you aren't going to. And it's probably the same for me. If I didn't do what I did for a living and I worked for a company that I was on a nice salary, nice pension, nice whatever. Am I going to muddy the waters and then lose all that for what? You haven't got morals then, but
you probably would actually.
I mean, it's a tricky one. I get the position. I'm not singling Lydia out, but you understand why people are reluctant, who are, got mouths to feed, reluctant to rock the boat. But you'd kind of hope that one or two of them that are coming towards the end of their career, maybe in a reasonable financial position, think, well, let's ask the question. But I think that it's just not something. What's the payback for them? What's in it for them?
I mean, given the craven cowardice of a lot of people in key positions at the BHA, I wouldn't rule it out in view of Lydia having a reputation for being a bit tasty in an interview. Half of them wouldn't let her in the office.
Mm. Yes, I mean that's a very fair point. And as we've said before, that people that do, dare to question the status quo do get sort of ostracised or smacked down. So, it's not a criticism of them per se, but you'd think the industry paper, not an individual, but collectively, a collective body like the Racing Post would ask that question. Not kind of put it on one individual freelancer's shoulders to pose it, but as the industry's paper, pose that question.
Well, for my money, that paper started going downhill when Paul Haig left, and I think his resignation summed it up quite nicely, actually. Yeah. I wish Paul Haig had still been at the Racing Post, to be honest.
He's on the phone now, there, sounds like.
Yeah. He was doing well in there last year.
Yeah, she's got a Ouija board.
Yeah, I mean, this is it, really. We're kind of snookered that no one is willing to do this, to actually just come out and just say and call it like it is. This is what frustrates me in the real world, that that you can see everyone can see what's going off. Everyone can. It literally is that bent. But no one will properly, apart from like certain alternate media, that will not call it out. And we're getting the same in racing now because, you know, we get bookmakers moaning on course. Oh, my bank's closed me down because it won't accept cash. Well, why do you think they're doing this? Why do you think banks are cancelling bank accounts? Why do you think follow the narrative, do as you're told, or you can't bank with us, and that's it. Everything is digital, going digital. I've mentioned before about Leicestershire County Cricket. They didn't want to go cashless. The bank said, well, you've no choice because we won't take any more cash off you. So what could they do? You know what I mean? It's coming.
Exactly.
And that's why, if you're wondering why, if you ever moan why a racecourse goes cashless, don't necessarily have a go at the racecourse, because I can guarantee it's more or less the bank that's told the racecourse no more cash deposits. Yeah. And so you have to read between the lines a bit here. And anyway, back to affordability. Looking at some stats that my modelers produce and stuff regarding the current situation. So more than 101,000, which is nearly the population of York, UK customers have lost at least £1,000 in a day more than 3 times in their betting lives, right? So what we're trying to say is that level 2 affordability, which is when you start doing your conkers, basically, that's all it means. Forget monetary amounts. It's when you do your bollocks, basically, which is inevitable for everyone in life.
Daily.
Yeah, especially when they're doing daily like us. The BHA are so blind because they've been fed on the champagne from the court saying everything's going to be just hunky-dory, you stick with us and the levy will be fine, would point to a £20 million shortfall in the levy if customers weren't able to pass level 2 affordability, John.
It's another good question for a pioneering journalist to ask Jolie Harrington, isn't it? What does she plan to do about it?
Well, I'll tell you what she'll say. She'll say the same as MP Stuart Andrew that works in the DCMS, where he says, "Oh, there's nothing to worry about here. It's only 3%." But sadly for Stuart Andrew, 3% equates to 101,000, the very minimum. Estimates even include 149,000. But MP speak and Julie Harrington speak. They won't say 101,000, 149,000. They will say 3%. Why? Because 3% sounds like fuck all to help.
Yeah, looks better, doesn't it?
Gamblers
only
3%. Yeah.
97%, that's the difference, isn't it? Yeah, it's all good.
But when you talk numbers, and think about it, John, right? These people that have done a grand in a day more than 3 times in their betting lives. Yeah. So what does that tell you? These gamblers are ones that are going to fund the levy because, as we know, we fund the sport on losers.
Of course, yeah. Sticky times for Miss Harrington coming up.
But again, they don't care. They've no interest.
She's no skin in the game, has she? So.
No, salaries.
No, there's no long-term in the sport, have they? Actually, she'll move on. There'll be another job, sort of heading some other quango. These people aren't emotionally invested in the sport. They're not long-term participants. They're administrators, aren't they? That's what they are. They're there to do a job for a set contract and then they move on. That's it.
Yeah. And in other news regarding sort of the gambling white paper, the NHS are very keen to muscle in on this lovely grift about gamblers that suffer harm and ruin their lives, because 7 new NHS clinics are due to open this year to deal with gambling harm. Now, I want to know, and I'll ask any doctor or professional or supposed professional, I'd say, how the fucking hell can you cure gambling harm? You cannot. It is impossible.
Unless they're going to buy you a house back.
I mean, exactly. They've already suffered harm. They've that's it. They've done it in.
The damage is done, isn't it?
Yeah. So then what? But what was Gamblers Anonymous for? Right? When we used to go to GA meetings or whatever,
so you would sit around and get equally ashamed as everybody else sat in the circle.
I think the purpose is obviously to ensure that, whilst they fuck their lives up, to ensure that kind of destructive behaviour doesn't persist. But I think, as we pointed out before, how can you attribute someone's downfall, financially, emotionally, whatever, just to one thing. It's invariably a range of issues. It's not just gambling, it's not just drink, it's not just drugs. It's it's very. But to isolate gambling seems to me, opportunistic, doesn't it? To get some lovely money from the government.
But another thing, right? So the dismissiveness of the black market, which I find bizarre, that this is from the BGC, from lots of quarters about the black market, saying it's not going to be a problem. There's no way this is going to be a problem. This is just a storm in a teacup. Now, where I see it is the black market. Who's to prove? And I'm going to pose a question to you both here, right? How do we know that a lot of the black market isn't funded by a big corp? How do we know?
Nowhere, no.
We don't.
Right, and think about it. Right, when you take a loan out or whatever with a firm or a company, that company's just a front from where it's getting the money from, isn't it?
Oh yeah.
Like for example, it could be some incredibly rich banking corporation that provides the loans for, say, Happy Day loans. They haven't got the cash. They're just borrowing it off them at 10% and loaning it out at 32%. So what I'm trying to say is these black market casinos and online betting operations that aren't regulated, that's another question journalists should ask. How do we know where their funding comes from? Is it big corp? Because I'll be honest, if I was a bastard and I was big corp and I was Denise, I'd be thinking, well, we may as well open up. We've got the technology and software that's already there on our sites. So basically, we just offer black market options, and from a Cayman Islands, whatever, and we just run it as a separate entity. And there you go.
Well, of course they do. Yeah, corporations are all about contingency planning. It's inconceivable that the big corp haven't considered the worst case scenario and are planned and invested accordingly. I mean, give a slightly different example. All the big tobacco companies like British American Tobacco and Philip Morris, in anticipation, it never came, of cannabis being legalized, they patented all the designs and packets for 20 reefers, which they were ready and invested in being able to produce within a moment's notice. Because they were expecting cannabis to be legalized. So they had all the designs and the branding and the adverts ready to go. So you're trying to tell me that bookmakers haven't considered the worst case scenario? They have. And I'm sure that there's some black ops going on, sort of CIA style operations off the book that are pumping money into, ventures that will enable them to continue offshore.
Well, let's put it this way, Chris. Me and you are directors of Bet3, or we own Bet365. Right,
whatever, yeah.
Whatever company, we own it. The first thing we'd be looking at, I'd be thinking,
can't see Otto in that agent provocateur injury.
We get free tickets to Stoke-on-Trent games. Be brilliant, right?
John, as a favour to you, if I were Ed,
I wouldn't do it as a favour, Lee.
No, Ed a flutter. I'd say, what do you want to back? I'll knock it out 4 points for you.
Yeah. But you can only have £4 on. Yeah.
But yes.
Anyway, so we're directors of a big bookmaker. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think my conspiracy theory, Bob Lazar, is that I reckon some of these black markets are potentially funded in some way or connected, because think about it, these black market companies need the software, don't they? They have and the software is owned mainly by people that have done it for big corps. So I'm not so sure that they'd be like paying the brass that big corp are for their slot software or their interfaces. So like I said, look, it's out there. Who's to know that like they're not bothered because they're just raking it in from the black market shit anyway. It's all a cartel, right? So yes,
I'm still thinking about these gambling harm centres that's going to start springing up.
Get one up.
I'm looking forward to attending one. My name is John. I'm 55 years old. I've done my absolute bollocks in on the horses over the years, and now every morning I go into Stewart's Park for a power wank.
I dropped my trousers because I'm mentally ill. Yeah.
So that meeting's next door, mate. You're in the wrong one. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're in Gamblers Anonymous, not fucking Wankers Anonymous.
Yeah, I mean, for anyone that's got half a brain, you can see what this is all about. It's all a big grift. It literally is. It's embarrassingly just pathetic. And it's pathetic how government are on board with it, BHA are on board with it, gambling commissioner on board with it, article in the Racing Post from Flutter, about, we've got to do more, What do you mean do more? You can't do any more. You've already decimated every single winning account going, I think, just about. So, yeah, we've got to do more. More of what, exactly? It's bullshit, isn't it? But the thing is, like, Betfair don't even produce their own affordability limits, which I think if you're gonna bring affordability in, right?
Yeah.
Surely then every bookmaker should be made to display before you either sign up for the account or existing accounts what the affordability limits are.
Mm-hmm.
Does anyone know? Right. For example, can you go on any bookmaking site and tell me what affordability is allowed? Right.
No.
Right. No, not one. Not one displays it. Ask yourself why. Why? Because obviously a wagon comes on, blows about $2,000 on the slots, goes up bingo, and does their absolutes, and that's it. That's why. They can't have that. They can't have a scenario where you're only allowed to lose 125 quid before you get an affordability check. This 125 quid, once you've lost that's an excuse for the bookmaker to scour your data. That's not to protect you, as we've already said before. So anyway, the questions that were asked on that affordability, we've gone there. We've updated where the current modus is, and it's no change really, but we know where it's going, which is a disaster. Right, on to the weekend's racing then. A few sort of topics I think is worth discussion here. First of all, John, Darren Pearce shared a lovely little stat from Paul Keeley, and I never saw this from Paul Keeley. Data about watering on tracks.
Yeah, it's superb, wasn't it? Because it showed exactly who's guilty of the overwatering.
Yeah. And heavily it was Ascot and Yorkin, July HQ.
Yeah, which is rapidly becoming a no-go area for punters. I've never seen so many small field races where they're spread all over the track like that. On Saturday, it was an absolute disgrace. You can't be punting on it, and I can't believe people are paying to go in and see it on a Saturday when it's absolute scrap like that.
Was there one race? I think it was early in the race, early in the day. It was a 6-runner race, and 3 split to the far side and 3 split to the side.
Unbelievable, isn't it?
It's just absolutely incredible, and I think that shows, despite James Knight's protestations, that how many courses have we watered?
Well, I say if we're desperate for a piss and leaving, we tend to water them, don't we? So.
but this is the thing, though. How can punters not be upset? Like, what does I read James Knight's comments on Twitter, and
it's a typical supercilious comment, isn't it? From somebody who's, I'm all right, Jack. I've got a comfortable job in the industry. There's no way that my position's under any kind of threat whatsoever. And you plebs just fucking suck it up.
Pretty much. Yeah, I think that is summed up superb. But yeah, that is a tremendous graph from Paul Keeley, because he'd have had to do that through manual checking. There's no software that had done that. So, and I've never seen it. But that's interesting indeed. So obviously, courses to beware of overwatering are Ascot and HQ July course. Why Prosser doesn't tend to overwater at Rowley, I don't know, but maybe I've answered my own question.
It's seasonal, isn't it?
Spring and autumn, yeah.
I mean, you wouldn't have thought it didn't require any sort of irrigation in the autumn.
John, would you say though that like Prosser going this year is
it's still there? The place is shagged.
You reckon?
Absolutely shagged. I mean, God knows what's going on under them ridges and that now. It's just been watered to death. It's borderline tragic, to be honest, because it used to be one of the best punting tracks in the country, the July course. And the rot set in when they put that bloody railing right up the middle of it and split it in two.
Yeah.
But, you know, there you go.
Yep, it's John's favourite course, and every time it's on, I'm sure, like, John, you might change your mind for the July meeting preview.
Well, I'll be here. You know, every race you ask me about, I'll probably just be saying, well, I wouldn't be betting at that control, you know.
Well, why not?
I'll turn up for the say.
Yeah, right. So, obviously, ITV came in for some bit of criticism, I noticed, on Saturday for the changing of the times on races, and this was apparently due to an England women's football friendly and the Tour de France being on ITV4. Now, is this a shifting of the times that racing fits well below the ladder, or was this a secret premierisation trial?
Maybe a bit of both.
Yeah, combination of both. I mean, look, they're desperate to try and promote what are fundamentally minority sports, aren't they? Women's fucking football friendlies, riding bikes. I mean, who the fuck gives a shit about that, really? But the media are desperate to convince us, oh, yeah, this is such a popular sport. No cunt goes and watches it. How many people do you know, even when they have the Tour of Britain stand on the street corner, unless it's outside your house? No one. Same with women's football. How many people do you know go to women's football? How many? I don't know anyone.
I think so, I don't know. I think some people do it to do a virtuous tweet or a post saying, "Look, I'm here at women's football." You know, that kind of thing. It's shit, isn't it? But anyway,
fucking rubbish. But they will push that. So I think John's right. I think it is a covert trial of premierisation combined with this idea that you know, fucking, you know, water polo, well, let's push that. That's the cool sport, you know, that kind of nonsense. So I think
it's like World of Sport with Dickie Davis, isn't it? Back in the day, it's like I mean, you'd have wrestling, you'd have badminton, table tennis, you know,
squash,
and you'd have Eddie Kidd trying to jump 28 fucking buses.
Yeah, Eddie Kidd.
Yeah, and that followed grounds from Haringey.
Yeah, that's good, wasn't it? Because even the shit sports, you only got like 30 seconds of it, and they moved on to something else.
And then some bird on a typewriter in background had like typed something out and handed it to him and said, fucking Villa's equalised.
Fucking dirty bastards. I fucking needed them to win.
Oh, yeah, the glory days. But anyway, going back to the shifting of times and stuff, don't forget as well, when people say, well, what you're talking about, don't forget, ITV racing only exists because of bookmaker and big corp advertising. That's why if big corp weren't allowed to advertise on ITV racing, they would not be showing racing. That's a fact.
No, that's true. I mean, that's reality. So you know, they cannot exist independently, can they? It is utterly different. Same with the Racing Post. I mean, it's, you know, very much dependent on bookmaker advertising. You know, racing television coverage is the same.
I was looking at ITV racing for Mascot, and I was wishing it only existed when I had a toasted cheese supper.
Yeah, that's true. Actually, in fact, I want the whole fucking lot banned. I don't want to see any more shitty fucking horse racing. Honestly, dreadful, terrible sport, isn't it? Don't you find racing's a curse? Don't you think you'd wish your enemies bet horses because you can guarantee a life of fucking misery and decimated hope? That's a great curse, I think.
You can, if you watch it on terrestrial television, I think you're damn right, you know, it is a life of absolute misery.
I think so. But this
is it as a full-time bettor. I can actually say it is a life of fucking misery. But it's good and bad. But honestly, the work that has to be done and everything else, and obviously the shit you have to go through and suffer, it's immeasurable. And I would say at this time, I reckon my nerves are at my wit's end because obviously, we can't put too much more money in our account because then affordability checks come in, and then we can't withdraw it because if we withdraw it, the bank gets lower.
The funny thing with this, though, Lee, I mean, you refer to it as a life of misery. I mean, we've had days at the races where we've absolutely done it in left, right, and centre. You're coming off the track and my face fucking aches with laughing.
Oh, yeah.
I mean...
That's the merciless laughter of the damned.
Is that because we need to be in one of these new pop-up clinics? Because there's something wrong with us mentally?
Yeah, I think so.
Well,
need to be sectioned.
Can I just say now, right, that if it wasn't for racing, I wouldn't know either of you two.
Well,
It is a curse,
there you
then,
go.
isn't it?
You
Yeah.
proved your point. It's a life of misery. Fucking hell. QED. It's true.
But I mean
Fucking hell,
You watch songs
that's
of
the
praise
fucking
instead of
magic
recording.
moment, that, isn't it?
You mean instead of recording this shit on a Sunday, you'd be watching songs of praise, wouldn't you? There's another reason. These spirits get yourself ready for the afterlife.
Bloody Harry Shaker on, yeah.
Yeah, Highway. What a load of shit that was.
Yeah. Saturday afternoon used to be like, it was like Lost in Space. They used to play.
Yeah.
Then they went on to Football Italia. This was Channel 4, and then you'd watch Bullseye, and then it all went Pete Tong, didn't it? When fucking Highway and Songs of Praise came on. Everyone
that's something I remember. Exactly. My Sunday afternoons were even worse because I had sort of older parents, so we didn't have the TV on. My dad used to listen to fucking Charlie Chester on Radio 2 and the Cliff Adams singers. Can you believe that? And then switch on because Highway was starting. Christ.
Do you remember Sarah Heard on Songs of Praise?
Oh, certainly do, yeah.
A quick story here about the Ginger Hitler. When he got divorced, he ended up with this bachelor pad in downtown Redcar on the Lakes Estate, and he wasn't very happy with the situation because the Lakes Estate's pretty much like the Bronx. And he was decorating it all out, and he said, I need a picture for the bedroom. And he got these mirrored wardrobes and everything, probably like the Eagle's Nest, this place, he's going to take everybody back. And he finished up because he was working with this stair lift installation company at the time. And in their reception, when they had a refurb, there was a big, full-length, life-size picture of Sarah Heard on a stair lift.
Fucking now, Stanner stair.
Yeah, and he lifted it out the reception refurb, and he put it at the head of his bed in the fucking bachelor pad. He said, look at that. He said, that's a talking point, isn't it? I said, yeah, they'll be talking about what a fucking queer cunt you are.
He's got 4 words, stand a chair.
Yeah.
Well, it's also the famous, not famous, the Viz phrase, the page 3 stanner is a phrase used to describe an old bird that's still capable of giving you a lift. How about that?
Fantastic.
I mean, that's genius. That is genius. So I think that is, whoever crafted that is a master. A page 3 stanner. Brilliant.
Well, there's a lot to be said for toothless Oldens.
Only the women, though.
Yeah.
Fucking rubbish.
Well, we don't want Alexandra Dunno fame at Bannerman, do you?
No, you absolutely don't. Fucking now,
it could end up dangerous.
Fuck me. You're like a fucking cheese grater. Terrible.
Anyway,
get all that out.
Where have we gone? We
went a bit off topic there, didn't we?
We did. Right, so we go back to the Irish Derby today, where first of all, is the race dying, John?
Yes.
Dying of death, isn't it? There was extra prize money this year.
Your man's killed it.
Who's your man?
Harry Potter.
Yeah.
Because nobody wants to go over there and take that lot on. I remember Tartan Bear going over there, and basically it was gang warfare.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. Johnny Mater just rode his into him.
Yeah. I mean, do you remember, like, famous clashes of the past and stuff? I mean, I always remember Generous against Suave Dancer.
These were fantastic races over the years.
Yeah. some really fond memories of the Irish Derby.
Great winners, you know. I mean, Grundy was fantastic when he won it. The minstrel comes round in the Epsom farm. Shirley Yates did the same, you know. I mean, at that time, it was a natural step for the Derby when he won it, and a lot of the Derby also runs used to run, and you know, and if they weren't up to it, they got exposed. I mean, Emperor went off favourite, despite Malakat having beaten him in the run-up to the Epsom Derby. Malakat trounced him in the Irish Derby.
Mm.
You know, they were interesting races. This was just a big pile of shit, to be honest, wasn't it?
Well, I mean, so we do think the Irish Derby's dying, and it's lost its international appeal. Certainly, British trainers don't seem to have much interest in it in terms of either using it as a stepping stone. Look what happened to Sergeant Wilson. He lost Lionel, baby, from the Mad One.
Do you think he'll ever run in Ireland again after that?
No, not at all. No. To be fair to Sergeant Wilson, he probably didn't understand the demands of the Curragh, which he's wins behind. Back-told front runner said.
Yeah. And he's not asked whether the water then, that's easy either. So.
No. I mean, look, I love Manuzzi. I think he's a lovely guy when we had him at pub, but to be not arsed on water, and he's just, what are you on about? Literally, you have to be very arsed. You know, a lot of horses do not need overwatered slop. Anyway, we'll move on from that. So the Irish Derby ride on the 2nd. I tweeted on Barstew's Twitter earlier, 2nd not off, #Irish Derby. I think the ride Seamie gave the 2nd was nothing short of totally obvious. And you can see from the Twitter response to the post I made that seriously, a lot of people had the same thoughts and actually were thankful that someone actually came out and said it. Now, there's no chance the mainstream media would ever chance or say afterwards, what were you doing? I mean, I've seen girls ride stronger on the gallops than what that was from Seamie Heffernan from 2 out. And for me, it was not acceptable. It was clear what was happening. Augustine Rodin come up sides. It was struggling to pass it for a while, and because of the front running bias. And he just was very soft on Adelaide River. And as soon as Auguste Rodin got a couple clear, Seamie just then started to get more active. But then the 2 lengths has gone. It was one of them. If Seamie had been riding from 2 out properly to win an Irish Derby, Seamie Heffernan wins the Irish Derby. Thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, he didn't knock spots off it, did he?
No. I mean, what I'm trying to envisage is the one that suffered a fatality. Sadly, San Antonio.
Sadly for those of us that ran at 66 to 1.
Oh yeah, all the bets and everything, you know, and you know that would have. Well, put it this way: if someone had said to me which wins between San Antonio and Adelaide River.
Yeah, and I mean, it was in the catbird seat, as Mr. Rasmussen used to call it, wasn't he? Yeah,
I thought that. Obviously, barring its injury, would have probably, if it was able, would have probably gone on to win the race.
Yeah,
I thought Auguste Rodin was, but I'm not blaming Auguste Rodin saying it's shit. I'm just saying the Curragh's a bit of a kip for front end sometimes, and you know when you're dealing with tailwinds. It's been
desperate this weekend, hasn't it?
It has. I mean, right. For example, yesterday, 5 out of 8 made all. 2 were prominent. The only winner held up was Via Sistina, which must have done a phenomenal performance, I think, to have done that. But they did go hard in that to help her. And today we saw it all day. Front runner. You know, it was just front end. Even in the mile handicap, 20 odd runners. The one made all.
Well, it was quite funny yesterday because everything I backed at the Curragh got dropped out, and everything I backed at Newcastle tried to make the fucking running.
So are we blaming the Curragh crowds on everything just winning from the front or something? Because I noticed I don't know what the attendance was. We've not had the figures yet that'll probably for next week's show. But the crowd looked sparse in the stands.
Well, yeah, I was going to go and watch that. It's Harry Potter benefit, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
you're not going to get up on a man and say, fucking great Irish derby there, get down there and say what's the best of these. You already know.
Game like Mayhem with Arabs, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. It's a bit predictable, isn't it? But sadly not predictable by us.
Same thing. What I didn't mention earlier regarding premierisation, I forgot, was a great blog from Cairnbet, Andy Stallard. And just regards to like changing of times on horse racing, which we're going to see 10 a.m. starts for sure at some point. Well, it was 12:20 Newcastle, and Andy Stallard said he was 70% down on his book in takings on the first race compared to the last year.
Wow.
Well, you've still got outburn from your bacon sandwich and you're picking bits of egg out your beard, aren't you?
Yeah. He said literally, it's quite funny, his blog. He said that literally, like, there's a few like young ones stood in front of the boards, and he said everyone's 2-1 the jolly, and he said finally someone put up 21-10. Right. And so this lad went up and had £5 at 21-10.
Fantastic.
Like for the extra 50 pence, you know.
I would have done that. Were you fucking laughing? Value.
You just get down off your box. You get down off your box, wipe the bar, and fuck off home, wouldn't you?
Yeah, he sounds pretty desperate times for some on-course books. But this is it. They're trying to wipe that out. And what I forgot to mention on last week's pod was Banks was going bananas about the Windsor enclosure, etc. About these like tote booths popping up, but they're disguised as like bookmaker joints.
Yeah.
So it literally looks like the bookmakers. Now what? Yeah. But it was called Ascot Bet. So it was like this is so how can you fucking charge?
Well, Banks goes racing. This guy is just Cliff Barnes from Dallas.
I remember him. Digger Barnes. Was it Digger Barnes? Well, that was him, was it?
Digger Barnes' boy, yeah.
That's it.
That's it. Yeah.
You might get me watching Dallas again, John. That one of the funniest series ever. JR, complete bastard.
Oh.
Yeah.
You know, and like Cliff Barnes always used to cop it, didn't he?
Yeah.
He never got the right end of it, did he? He was always just about ready to rip out all the empire from under JR, and he always got done, didn't he? Poor bastard.
Again,
got nutted on the line.
Again, Chris, your articles on luck. This is why they're so fun because it's kind of whatever's meant to be is meant to be. But yeah, what a series that was.
Barnes. We are Cliff Barnes.
We actually are.
We stand with Cliff.
No, but in all seriousness, this is bad for on-course bookmaking. That courses now, like Chester Bet, Ascot Bet, are all popping up with these joints where Billy Bunters are being fleeced because
people are daft enough to bet with them as well, aren't they? That's
of course they are, because they're not educated. There's no right back in our day when we grew up. No, there's no literature. They don't understand the game. They'll say, "What's each way? What's the fucking thick?" And so like
the old fella used to say, "I'll show you fucking each way. Come here."
yeah.
Bang.
Yeah. So I need to read Clive Holt's Fine Form. That'll educate them.
Yeah. Fine Form. Yes.
We all did it. Yeah, we did it, didn't we? The red book, the soft red book.
It was the romance of it back then. It was fantastic to live the dream and think you can do it. And to be fair, you know, I've done all right. I've had a career out of it. But at the same time, could I recommend this now to anyone? Like our sport to anyone to get into? No. We in 10 years' time we're just going to see arcades, bookies turn into complete arcades. 10 a.m. starts. No one's interested. No one can get a bet on. Everyone's betting in the pub and getting on with dodgy bookies. And it's a sad state of affairs. And yeah, it's bad. Anyway, on to talking of bad. Kevin Stott. He's been jocked off. What's all that about today with Ross O'Ryan riding the one you like, John? The physical. He looked physically good today.
Yeah, he's done well, hasn't he? Actually.
Yeah, Bucanero Fuerte. He couldn't even pronounce it. Commentator. I don't know who it was. He was like, it's Bono Fuerte.
Bollocks for Carter.
He was struggling with it. And Ross O'Ryan lifted it home and got it back up. Stoddard rode it last twice.
Rosa could be back in the picture, couldn't he?
He's not banned. What would Megan do, right, if Stott lost the Ammo job?
Well, I think we might have something to say on that next week, actually.
Which you all gonna love. Yeah,
I just have a feeling that there could be a special episode of it on with the stats.
Well, it's weird because obviously Stott has rode Bucanero Fuerte twice.
Mm.
So unless Stott is, I don't know. But he rode for Ammo on Saturday at Windsor.
Yeah, but I mean
that's damning, isn't it?
That's like saying you were out to perform at the Rosa performance, and then you were at South Bank Legion.
Yeah. Do you know what I find embarrassing though? And this is just from me analysing it from a onlooker's point of view. That like Adrian Murray trains, he doesn't train, does he? He's Brazilian trained, the same as Dominic French Davis. That's Brazilian trained. And I'll say it again, Charlie Sutton, if you're listening. Secretary Alice Haynes. Does Alice Haynes train all Ammo? Reply to me. DM me if you need to. But I've heard they just all get dropped in after being trained by the Brazilian Rafael Freire. So if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. If I'm not, DM me and challenge me again like you did before and said what I am saying is not true. But when the Brazilian pops up today, where was Adrian Murray to celebrate, John?
It probably is home. Watching Highway.
Yeah, I'll rerun the Highway.
Reruns are Highway, yeah, for old Adrian Murray. So there we go. These are the things we always talk about as a pod. We're allowed to, and why are we allowed to? Because no fucker pays us not to.
Yeah. And we're not worth suing because we haven't got a pot to piss in. Or
exactly. No pots to piss in here. Absolutely not. And if I have got pots to piss in, none of you's getting it because I'll just fucking send it to someone else. So fuck off.
Yeah. Good on you.
I hope you enjoyed the show. We have, as always. And we're back on Friday, as usual, with our usual tipping fair. We had a great weekend last weekend. Big naps from myself, Quentin, going in. Jack with Tiber Flow as well on Saturday. So it was a nice tipping weekend for us bastards. Yeah, but you've been tremendous all year and you were bound to have a flat week, John. So, but we shall be back with more for next weekend. So don't miss that. That's all from us. Bye for now.